Today we're going to take a look at a local story buried inside the Inquirer. But this isn't just a local story. It's a story about power being exercised locally after circulating around and through a national and international roadway of oppression. First, the story. Buried on page A8 in the Inquirer, we find this headline: Haverford College, Jewish groups settle refiled anti-Semitism lawsuit. Anti-Semitism, let's be upfront about it, is one of the worst things that humanity has ever engaged in. Let's take a look at the story. It might not be what you think. Haverford College and a Jewish group suing the school over its handling of anti-Semitism allegations have reached a settlement, according to federal court documents. The documents in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania did not include details of the settlement, but a lawyer for the plaintiffs says Haverford President Wendy Raymond's statement to the college community immediately following the settlement announcement Friday was part of it. Quote, "I want to take this opportunity to publicly acknowledge that those members of our community with a commitment to the state of Israel as the Jewish homeland have been deeply hurt by events that have transpired on our campus since October 7th, 2023, and that constitutes a failure on our part," wrote Raymond. "We commit ourselves to doing better going forward." The lawsuit was filed in May 2024 as tensions mounted on many college campuses, including Haverford, in the wake of the Israel-Gaza war, following Hamas's 2023 attack on Israel. In their complaint, the plaintiffs, 3 students, and the group Jews at Harvard alleged that the college discriminated against Jews by tolerating anti-Semitic speech and failing to adequately support Jewish students, some of whom have been shunned on campus and prohibited from participating in group discussions where the war was discussed. Raymond, in her statement, repeatedly stated that students who support Zionism, which she defined as, quote, "the right of the Jewish people to self-determination and statehood in the land of Israel," are welcome at Haverford and will have equal access to all educational programs and activities. Quote, "Harassing, excluding, or seeking to silence Jewish community members on the basis of their beliefs, their commitment to Jewish observance, or any other element of their Jewish identity, including Zionism, is anathema to the college's core principles of trust, concern, and respect," she wrote, noting that the policy applies to offices, classrooms, and student-led organizations and activities. These statements are bad. The president of Haverford has essentially decided that Jewish identity is inextricable from a nationalist project, Zionism. That's the same as saying that my identity as a white man is defined entirely by those white supremacist little shits that profess to be Christians down south. It's ridiculous. Here's some footage from just last week showing what's done in the name of Zionism.
A Fox News crew captures the only surviving footage. It is the bloodiest racial massacre in American history, leaving nearly 300 dead.
Oh, shit, my bad. That was something else I was watching. Give me a second. Here's what I meant to show you.
The electoral campaign for Israel's parliamentary elections in October hasn't started yet. But for Palestinians in the occupied West Bank, it may have already begun. On the second day of an Israeli assault on the Qalandia refugee camp, troops have been going door to door, entering homes as well as interrogating and detaining people in the street. Soldiers are attacking Palestinians, banning medical teams from helping the wounded. And for Israeli politicians, the intensity of the latest attacks is an attempt to show force. Images like these could boost their popularity amongst Israeli voters, particularly as the government comes under pressure to limit its attacks on the Gaza Strip. Abu Iyad Shawamri used to have a mini market and a toy store. Now, this is what's left of them. Israeli forces demolished the small shops, which used to sustain 5 Palestinian families.
They say I didn't have a permit to build up these permits, but they don't give these permits.
What am I missing here? Am I not allowed to critique the Israeli government for doing this to the Palestinians because it might be anti-Semitic if I do so? I don't fucking understand. Zionism is not the Jewish faith. Zionism is a fascist movement within the diaspora. The people in control now weren't always in control. And if you don't believe me, I highly recommend picking up this book by Molly Crabtree. Great commentary and history of the Bund, a movement you probably haven't heard a lot about lately, now that we are in the throes of the dominance of Zionism. Haverford settling this bullshit claim on the part of 3 Jewish students who I'm sure were just offended that somebody in a classroom somewhere said that the IDF are full of rapists and murderers, and I dare you to prove it otherwise, and that Israel is committing a genocide, are part of a growing trend in this country. From Nonprofit Quarterly just last week, universities capitulate to Trump administration's demands, but at what cost? Already, some universities have agreed to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to settle unfounded anti-Semitism claims. They have also reached settlements that will force them to comply with major restrictions and a loss of their institutional autonomy. So far, 3 Ivy League universities, the University of Pennsylvania, Brown University, and Columbia, have reached such deals with the Trump administration that may save money in the short term, but will further marginalize vulnerable student groups in the long term. In July, the University of Pennsylvania reached a deal with the Trump administration that retroactively revoked records and titles from the first trans athlete to win an NCAA Division I title, Leah Thomas. The university also barred transgender athletes from competing according to their gender identity. Though the university took this action to avoid losing $175 million in federal funds, it also showed how quickly it could ostracize its transgender students. More recently, in exchange for having its federal research funding reinstated, Columbia University agreed to pay more than $220 million to settle anti-Semitism allegations, including an employment discrimination claim that could potentially qualify any Jewish employee who has reported experiencing anti-Semitism to receive a payout. In exchange for having its funding reinstated, the university also struck a deal that gives a Trump-approved official the right to review the university's admissions records to ensure that it does not engage in affirmative action. This new deal is in addition to a previous agreement struck in March that subjected the Middle Eastern Studies Department to monitoring. None of this is good, and I hope that you see here that there is a connection between conservative movements that are pressuring these universities. You've got Haverford saying that any critique of Zionism is now de facto anti-Semitic, and you can see what's going on here. Neither trans athletes nor Jewish students are ever going to be safe. What deals like this do in terms of impacting the Jewish community is this is going to increase anti-Semitic actions. We are equating the genocidal actions of a nation with a group of people and saying that that is the identity of that group of people. That's also wrong. Right now, the conversations about Israel in this country are dominated by groups like the Apartheid Defense League, who claims to be fighting anti-Semitism while stoking the flames of it in the real world, and AIPAC, the albatross that now hangs on the neck of every politician and policymaker in this country. But I want you guys to remember that these groups do not speak for the majority of the diaspora, and there are alternatives. There's a strong Jewish labor committee out there doing good work, building on the work of the Bund. Jewish Voices for Peace are fighting constantly to establish rights for both Palestinians and Israelis, to live in peace, to figure out a way to bring those groups together. And then there's also the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network. Now, granted, none of these groups have the same sort of media apparatus that the Apartheid Defense League and AIPAC have, but they're the ones who are doing the work that we need right now.